Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel if it's your first time here. My name's Eva, and I am a recent high school graduate. I'm going to be starting at MIT in the fall. In about 2 weeks I'm leaving. That's kind of crazy how fast it goes by. So a big part of my applications to all the colleges I applied to was my art portfolio. So today I thought I'd walk you guys through that and show what pieces I chose, how I chose them, how I tailored my application to each specific school. I used my art portfolio and was accepted to RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, and that was the only specifically art school that I applied to. I was also accepted to Yale, Princeton, Stanford, MIT, which I'm attending in the fall, Caltech, and Brown. So today I thought I'd go through my RISD portfolio because that's the highest level art school that I applied to. And I'll also be talking a little bit about how my RISD portfolio was different from my other college portfolios. Because for RISD, I chose to do a much more well-rounded portfolio, whereas for schools like Stanford and MIT and Princeton, I did a much more tailored portfolio towards my strengths. RISD wants applicants that will be able to succeed in their foundational classes in drawing and painting, in addition to sculpture or any type of art. So for that reason, I tried to make sure that I showed that I was adequately skilled in drawing and painting, even though my specialization is typically sculpture. So let's, get right into it. This is the first piece. It's called Sneeze, because it was supposed to look like a sneeze. I made it in my junior year of high school during AP 3D Art, which was my favorite class of all time. It was great. My concentration for AP 3D Art was people in motion, which meant all my pieces that I included in my AP portfolio for my concentration section were tailored towards the idea of people moving and people in motion. So in this picture, this is before the piece has been fired, and I personally really like the way clay looks before it's been fired, when it's gray and the shadows are really intense. And so I kept the photo as it looked beforehand, but I have it here after it's been fired. And so you can see it's been glazed and it's two different pieces. And I really like how I was able to get the texture in the hair and the ears and the facial expression. And I liked that I had two pieces, so I was able to break the plane. But I wanted to start off my portfolio with this specific piece because I feel like it shows a lot of my skills in sculpting people. That way I could set the mood of, this is what I'm capable of, this is who I am, and here's just a taste of what's further to come. Okay, so this is my second piece. It's called Clipping Her Toenails. I made this as well in AP 3D Art. It's carved out of plaster, and I have it here. So you can see, we started with just a cup of plaster about this size, and then I whittled it down, and I wanted to include this one in my portfolio because I wanted to show my skills in a subtractive method as opposed to clay, which is both an additive and subtractive method. I thought it turned out really well. I was happy with all the details I was able to get. I don't know if it will focus. But yeah, you can see, and I just wanted to make a girl clipping her toenails. I thought that would be kind of creative and interesting. And I also wanted to include this one in the front because I thought it was a pretty strong piece, and I thought it showed kind of my sense of humor so that readers would get to know me a little bit. So this is my third piece. It's called Free. Similar to my first piece, I liked how it looked better before it was fired versus after, but I have it here after it was fired. You can see the facial features, the hands, the fabric. And this one, it's called Free because I really tried to capture the flowing expressiveness of just letting go of all of life's stresses and just leaning into the wind and totally just releasing all your anxieties. I put this one also up front in my portfolio because I thought it was really strong and showed my skills. It's made out of white clay, just like the typical stuff you would use in any ceramic studio. But yeah, that's why I included it, was because I thought it really showed my skills and also my expressiveness in my pieces. So this is my fourth piece. It's called Strong Women. It was after the whole scandal with USA Gymnastics, and I was just really inspired by all those gymnasts who came forward, and I wanted to show their strengths. And I'm in love with the way gymnasts are able to move their bodies into these powerful movements and jumps and turns and twirls. This one took so long to make, and it was one of my favorite pieces to make. I spent so long doing research for this one that I actually ended up including another shot, which is right here. That's a process photo of this piece. So RISD a lot of times will ask you to include some process pictures of one or two of your pieces. Since this piece required so much research, I watched tons of YouTube videos from the Rio 2016 Olympics where I was just analyzing in slow motion the intricate flexing of the muscles, and I just watched these videos over and over, and I spent so many late nights working on this piece. I actually ended up writing my common application essay about making this piece, and the challenge of like also approaching it from an engineering standpoint where how do you get these girls to balance on the beam the way they do? And so since this one was so intricate and it required so much research and effort and weird methods of like stilting it in the kiln to make sure it didn't like stick to other things. And that's another reason why I really wanted to focus in on this piece with both the process picture and by putting the piece itself early on in my portfolio. So moving on to my sixth piece, I'm now going into the drawing and painting realm of my portfolio. So this is called Admitted. As most of you probably know since you're watching my channel, a lot of people on YouTube lately have joined into the trend of making college decision reaction videos. And so two of my closest friends made their own decision reaction videos that they sent to me on the days they found out that they got into college. And I was so inspired by those moments that I took a screenshot and I drew the exact instant where both of them found out that they got in. The guy on the left, his name is Joaquin, and he'll be starting at Harvard in the fall, and this is exactly when he found out he got into Harvard. And the guy on the right is named Stefan, and he'll be at MIT with me in the fall. Hopefully he'll be featured in some of my YouTube videos around then when I'm doing like dorm tours or day in the life, stuff like that. So that's the moment he got accepted to MIT. Moving on to piece number 7. This is called Brussels sprouts. This is actually a very old drawing that I did way back, I think in 8th grade, but it was one that kind of kickstarted my portfolio idea this year of using colors to express emotions. I did this one with chalk pastel. Oh, the previous piece was colored pencil, by the way. And in the future, you'll also see some of my other mediums, just to show my well-roundedness as an artist. Piece number 8 is called Sam. I actually have it here. Here's what it looks like in real life. It's encaustic, so it's a wooden board that we used melted wax and drew with a hot tool. We had to work really quickly for these pieces because the wax dried quickly, and it was based on a picture of a kid named Sam in my class, which is why I call it Sam. Okay, moving on to piece number 9. This was a figure drawing example. I kind of cheated the system a little bit by including 2 different drawings in one image. But I had gone to a portfolio day earlier this year where RISD admissions officers were there reviewing people's portfolios to give feedback. One of the pieces of feedback they gave me was I had to show my strength in figure drawing. So I decided to include this just to show I can look at a picture or a person and draw what I see. The bottom one is Phyllis from The Office. You probably recognize her if you've seen that show. So I included these to show RISD that if I were to take those introductory drawing and painting classes, I wouldn't be too far behind. Okay, moving on to piece number 10. This one's called A Storm's Brewin'. It's made out of toothpicks and popsicle sticks. I really liked the texture that I had in this one. Also, I liked that it was an outside of the box medium, and in the photo itself, I liked the high contrast of the light and the dark, and it kind of created that stormy night feel. That's why I called it A Storm's Brewin'. I just felt like it captured that emotion pretty well. Moving on to piece number 11, this was another one where I tried to use an outside of the box medium. It's called Good Grief, It's Fun to Brush Your Teeth. As you can see, it's made out of toothbrushes. I just ordered a bulk toothbrushes off Amazon. I liked that this piece was a lot more architectural and abstract, focusing solely on forms and movement. So I think this shows that I can take things from a conceptual standpoint and I don't necessarily have to be looking at a person's face to make a piece of art. That's why I also included it, was because I liked that aspect of the piece. Moving on to number 12. This one is called The 2 Seasons of Seattle. Both of these are done in oil. I decided to include them in one slide of my portfolio because they're supposed to be a side-by-side comparison. So yeah, this just shows another element of my well-roundedness as an artist. Okay, moving on to number 13. This one I just called Pumpkin. This was an observational drawing that we did in watercolored pencil. So I drew it and then I would go in with the wet brush to blend the colors. And I liked the colors that I was able to capture in this one. Moving on to my next piece, I'm now kind of shifting back to the sculpture realm. This is called Christmas Mayhem, and I have it here in person so you can see a little bit better. There's a lot going on in this one and it was hard to capture in the photos, but you can see that I have like a Christmas tree and presents on the ground. This girl is like excitedly opening her presents, and this girl is like pointing and looking, and she's sitting in a rocking chair. And then I have like a dog running past that you can see kind of right there, with a mom sitting on the couch and a dad walking by. And this piece was one of my most frustrating pieces because the first time I put it in the kiln, it completely exploded. But I was able to use this thing called Magic Mender, which is like this sticky slip type thing you use for clay, and I was able to put it back together. And I wrote a few of my college essays for different schools on that process of putting it all back together. And this one, since I put so much time into this, I thought I had to include it because I was so passionate about this piece. Okay, moving on to my next piece. This was much more of an experimental piece. What I've seen about RISD is that they're very into experimental art and taking your art to the next level and trying new things and not being afraid as an artist to try new things. So for this one, I wanted to try to convert my three-dimensional sculptural skills into a two-dimensional product. So first I included this image of my process of sculpting this foot. I sculpted it in about like an hour-ish, which is another reason I included this, was to show that I could quickly make a high-level product that I was happy with. And then the next piece I had in my portfolio was a video where I showed myself covering the foot in paint and just slamming it down while it was still in a plastic clay state, so it could smush down on the paper and get all the indentations and textures of the foot down on the paper. This was a really fun piece to make because I got to just slam clay down on a piece of paper and not really care how it turned out. It was just fun to experiment and see how clay could be used as a two-dimensional medium, like a stamp, as opposed to just being a sculptural thing. Similarly, the next piece that I included in my portfolio was the same gist of me sculpting a quick face, just like the nose and mouth region, which I also slammed down on a piece of paper. I didn't include the video of that. I made this face in like, I don't know, 45 minutes, and I wanted to just show that I can quickly make something and that I'm not afraid to just slam it down and see what happens. Okay, so I have 3 more pieces left in my regular portfolio, all 3 of which are kind of more about my identity as an artist. So this first piece is called Diving After My Dreams, and I have it here as well. This was the very first piece I ever made in Ceramics 1, my freshman year of high school. Up until this point, I hated sculpture. Like, I wanted nothing to do with any three-dimensional art form. I was like, I can only draw, that's the only thing I want to do ever. But due to a scheduling issue, the only art class I was able to get in my freshman year was Ceramics 1, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll take it. And we were required to make plates, and so this was my plate that I made, and I just fell in love with the process of approaching it from kind of an engineering standpoint where you have to figure out how to make things balance and stable in the 3 dimensions, and this was just a really fun piece to make, and it sparked my love of sculpture in clay, so it holds kind of a special place in my heart. It had such an impact on my journey as an artist, so I thought it was important to include this. Even though it was like the first piece I made in Ceramics 1, I still thought it showed where my passion came from. So my last 2 pieces focus a lot on my love of combining science and art. Obviously, I'm not going to a solely art school in the fall. I'm going to MIT, which is a much more science-oriented school, but it has a very strong art and design department, and I'm planning on either double majoring in physics and art and design, or doing a minor in art and design. So these next 2 pieces are kind of about my love of both STEM and art. So this piece is called Taking on the Weight of the World. Our prompt in AP 3D Art was to make a piece fitting weight of the world, and I decided to take it very literally, and I have this piece here. It's kind of broken now, but I decided to create a space-time diagram that showed the literal weight of the world as a warping of the space-time grid that a lot of times you'll see in just physics or science class in demonstrations about the effects of gravity. And so since I want to go into physics, I thought this was a perfect way to show my love of physics in a piece. And I also liked that I was technically able to show like my painting skills because I painted the Earth pretty detailed, as well as the moon. Thank you to Google Maps for having a 3D model of the moon and Earth. That helped a ton in making this piece. And then I also included this girl warping the space-time diagram more than the Earth did, showing that she's kind of emotionally taking on the weight of the world. Okay, so here's my final piece in my general RISD portfolio. So, if a four-dimensional person were to look at me, they wouldn't just see the two-dimensional image that you see on your computer screen. They would see every single one of my cross-sections all at once. Okay, so this claymation was used in part of a longer video that you can see on my channel where I tried to explain what it means to think about the fourth spatial dimension of mathematics. What I want to do as an artist is try to approach these unimaginable concepts in physics and math and make them slightly less unimaginable through art. And that's a big part of why I want to continue doing art throughout the rest of my life and at MIT and in the future beyond that. And this was kind of my first go around of trying to visualize something that's traditionally impossible to visualize. And I wanted to end my portfolio with that to show that I have a passion for art that I'm going to take to go into the future and continue to make art. And so I felt like that was a good way to end my RISD portfolio. And I also included this piece in like every other portfolio that I submitted to colleges. So that was my general RISD portfolio, just 20 pieces showcasing my skills and identity as an artist. However, RISD also has a specific two-piece portfolio where they give you a word and you have to make two pieces based on that specific word. So this year, our choices of words to choose from, we got to choose one word out of forge, verify, or error. I ended up choosing verify, so I made two pieces based on the word verify. So this is my first piece, inspired by the word verify. I designed an anamorphic sculpture, which is a sculpture that looks different depending on the angle you look at it from. So if you look at this piece straight on, it just looks like me looking straight forward. However, if you turn and look at the piece from the side, it looks like me checking or verifying, hence verify, over my shoulder to like confirm something behind me. This piece was much more about the process of designing it rather than the end finished product. I mean, as you can see, I didn't actually end up finishing it because I ran out of time. But the process was what really mattered for this one because it was a challenge to figure out how to go about making an anamorphic sculpture. So I ended up treating it like a three-dimensional function that you might see in calculus or just any math class, where I had to plot the sculpture itself using yarn in this big three-dimensional grid that I made out of fishing line and wooden dowels. So that was my first verify. Here is my second attempt at approaching the word verify. Since verify means to prove, I sculpted the 3 stages of proving someone wrong. So you can see with these heads, the first head is kind of upset and confused by what they're hearing. The second head is speaking out and providing an argument as to why what they're hearing is incorrect and they're in the process of proving someone wrong. And the third head is like sitting back all smug and triumph, like, I proved you wrong, I verified the result, I'm right. So that was my second kind of fun take at the word verify. So there you have it. Thank you for sticking with me this long. That was my entire RISD art portfolio. This one was a lot more well-rounded than my other college portfolios. For instance, Stanford actually asked specifically for just a sculpture portfolio, so I just submitted my sculptures to Stanford. And similarly for MIT, Princeton, and almost all of the other schools I applied to, I just did sculptures, except for Yale, which did ask for at least one drawing, so I submitted a few drawings and paintings to Yale. If you guys have any questions or comments about my portfolio or the process of submitting an art portfolio to these colleges, let me know down in the comments below. Additionally, if you guys would like to see any other types of art videos from me, such as a time lapse of me making a sculpture or a day in the life as an art and design minor at MIT, let me know in the comments below and I'd love to make some of those for you guys. Good luck to all of you who are working on your own college applications right now, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing my art portfolio, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!